2013 BBC Radio 4 programme Uncanny, presented by Hugh Horton. I recently listened to a Radio 4 programme on the uncanny.
I did.
It helped to reinforce what I've been learning about the uncanny through my own research, as well as make me look at artists and the use of the uncanny in other genres such as film from a different perspective. Therefore, during this part of the vlog, I will revisit some artists such as Rachel Whiteread and my own work.
Yep.
I have also looked at music and the uncanny, so I will also revisit The Sandman and also look at other examples of music that is uncanny.
Pretty amazing ad, babe.
The radio programme also inspired me to look at the work of the Chapman brothers. I have researched their work and will discuss it in this part of the vlog. What I found really interesting from the radio programme was the discussion about the meaning of the uncanny in its original language of German. Although I knew that uncanny translates to unhomely, the additional explanation of the uncanny as not homely or a feeling of not being at home or shifting to homely but not at home made me think about how much the uncanny actually centres around the home and reaches out from that point, affecting everything around it, creating a disturbing sense of obscurity, uncertainty. This is a new perspective for me.
In some way you're not supposed to be. Like unplaceness.
Okay.
It's not at home on home like message.
So everyone's trying to feel at home.
Yeah, we're not home.
So not at home is what the uncanny's about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Is that one of the central themes do you think about
I think it is.
And that makes people feel
Uncomfortable and bemused, confused, or befuddled, sad, scared.
My work revisited. The video of me making a cup of tea is very uncanny or unhomely, a feeling of not being at home. This is because since my accident, places that were once comforting, safe and familiar to me are now often unfamiliar with hidden dangers. They create, as the radio programme suggests, a feeling of being lost in a familiar place and disorientation. This is shown in the video through my perspective, as the viewer can see directly through my eyes and experience how my sight interferes with how I have to tackle ordinary tasks which I once took for granted. Before my accident, making a cup of tea was easy, but now, due to my limited sight, the kitchen has many different dangers that I have to think about before I attempt to make one. This has made a once safe place unfamiliar to me.
Yes, it has.
I also thought the observation in the radio programme about the uncanny being the moment just before a person becomes paralysed by terror is really interesting, as I have experienced this a lot in my everyday life since the accident. This relates to the sewing box video, as the low guttural sound shows how my brain feels. It represents my internal screaming, making the listener feel as uncomfortable as I have sometimes felt in my own skin since my accident. This sound also relates to the idea that when we don't understand a message, we feel uneasy. The viewer can't interpret the sound that I am making, therefore they feel uncomfortable, anxious. Revisiting Rachel Whiteread. The idea of the haunted house was created by the 19th century Gothic novelists such as Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote The Fall of the House of Usher, in which he described a house as haunted by describing vacant, eye-like windows. The idea that the uncanny begins at home, the home is usually a safe place, hence the phrase safe as houses, really fits with how Rachel Whiteread made her house inside out. Her house links to the idea of a semi-transparent house and the sense that nothing is as it seems. It was a modern-day haunted house. Nothing was as it seemed. Familiar things, windows, doorknobs, etc., were inside out. And where were the curtains? The way that the house was familiar, but not quite right, created a sense of unease for the visitor. According to Whiteread, it also made them feel confused and insecure. This links to the idea that things, and that's situations and objects, go from being familiar to unfamiliar or slightly unrecognisable by being twisted ever so slightly. This changes them from normal to strange or uncanny. The Chapman brothers. In the realm of the unmentionable exhibition. In this exhibition, the brothers showcase their grim experience of growing up in the seaside town of Hastings. In a Guardian interview, they describe Hastings in a less than positive way. That shows the research. Crummy funfair. Then the pier caught fire.
Oh,
Headless bodies were always being found in the railway tunnel. It used to be called Smack on Sea. I think their perception of their childhood town is really interesting and can be related to unhomely. This is because their exhibition gives the macabre behind the scenes look at a seaside town that tourists don't see there. When a seaside town falls into disrepair and looking nothing like how it does on a postcard, it is also unsettling, and it's familiar but not quite the same and not quite right. This can make visitors unsettled and confused, and the residents, such as the Chapman brothers, feel insecure and scared. Music. Music has been integrated into the uncanny since the 19th century. The famous composer Offenbach wrote an opera called Tales of Hoffmann, which referred to the work of E.T.A. Hoffmann, who was also a composer and music critic, and featured the lifelike automaton Olympia. The contemporary composer Tariq Regan explains that music, when used in the context of the uncanny, involves the idea of expectation, which could be a tune that is familiar to the listener, and a piece of music that opposes this, a new melodic idea. This puts the listener in two places at one time and involves a sense of home existing at the same time as a completely alien place. This idea has been used in many genres of music, such as film score writing. An example of this is the young girl's haunting lullaby in the film The Night of the Hunter by Robert Mitchum. In The Sandman, not only is the theme of the story uncanny, the music that accompanies the story of the film is also uncanny. The radio programme observed that there is disconnected dissonance between the cheerful nature of the tune and what it appears to be suggesting. It has a sinister undertone which is almost haunting when you relate it to the wider context of the story.
I think it's not unsettling.
It's unsettling.
Yeah,
It is.
very unsettling.
Do you think it's an important part of the actual uncanny though, that they have got uncanny types of music too?
Yes, yeah, I think they have.
Which accompanies film and art?
Yeah, I think so.